Then there is emptiness. The emptiness that a teacher must have is a very different thing than an emptiness that the students must have. The students can become empty in two ways. You can wait until life breaks you, hollows you, makes you irrelevant, insignificant, and then you will fall in despair, and eventually you drink and smoke, end your life. Or you could become empty by the hands of your teacher. And remember, you will never know that he or she is your teacher. It will just happen upon you. You just wake up and you say, oh my God, I think I can learn a few things from this fellow. The task of any good teacher is to first, before they can give you nuggets of wisdom, if they have any, is to first clean you. To cleanse you of your history, to cleanse you of your personality, of your experiences, of your beliefs, to make you completely empty. The problem with that is go back to Buddhism for a moment, where in that particular tradition the Buddha tells us that if you really want to know what the self is, it doesn't exist. There is no self. Well, how the hell do you function when you become empty of your culture, of your history, of your thoughts, of your desires? Human beings are born with desires. They are our companions. And yet, when you become empty, you will have zero desires inside you. What does that make you? Well, you become empty for two reasons. If life, again, breaks you and you become empty, for the most part, there is no way of fixing you. Depending how badly you've been broken. I remember we had a customer at the car wash, a very nice man, he was about 50, and we had been washing his car for a number of years. He used to come with his wife, but at a certain moment he came to realize that he's been coming to the car wash all by himself the past few times. His wife isn't around. And so I asked him, so Joe, where's your wife? She left me. What? Yeah. And he knew that his wife was also coming to the car wash. So what he did, one day he came to my brother and I and my parents and said, you know, when my wife comes here, can you tell her to please come back to me? I really love her. But unfortunately for him, she had found someone else, so she had moved on. He could no longer go back and live in that house, so he began to live inside his car. In a matter of maybe a couple of months, he lost maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds. He had simply become a skeleton. He wanted to end his life. So that's one of the ways that life breaks you. Now, luckily for him, he began going to church. And he found someone, a woman who was a school teacher. She taught Roseville High School, English. And about 6 or 7 months later, they got married. If you're able to submit yourself to a teacher, and if you're able and willing, have the capacity to work with a teacher for a long period of time, he or she will empty you. And the way that happens is very much like Enkidu and Gilgamesh. You will fall in love with them. You will abandon your culture. You will abandon your history. You will abandon your desires. And you will only desire to fulfill his or her wishes. Without emptiness, there is no progress. Okay? So, if you're a student of a teacher, The only way you can really be useful to that teacher is becoming empty. But you can't become empty of your own will. You have to slowly come to realize that he or she has more power than you, more wisdom than you. There is something magnetic, charismatic about this person. You will eventually fall in love, and love will do its magic. And then dependency and codependency will come about, and then you will be conditioned. You'll be given a new software. It's usually about a 10-15 year process. The way a teacher is emptied is they need to allow water, this organic component that lives inside them, to guide them. They can't use their intellect like a calculator. If there is any cunningness, if there is any exploitation, it needs to be done through this organic thing called water, the Holy Ghost. Okay? It's like Socrates. If someone asks you about love, sure, you will fall victim to your own arrogance and to your experiences, and you begin to talk about love until you catch yourself that I am talking about love because I want the attention. All of a sudden you keep your mouth shut and you say to the gods, if you want me to talk about God, for example, or love, for example, okay, shower the blessings upon me. There is this beautiful story by Rabi'. Rabi' in Arabic means the fourth quarter. Sufi woman. There are not very many Sufi women in the Islamic tradition, but there are some. Rabi' happens to be one of them. And one of the things you need to know about Sufis is that they're profoundly passionate, especially when it comes to the religious obligations and duties. So one night she stands to pray, but she comes to realize what we talked about in Hinduism, that she's not feeling what she's saying. And because she was a very devout Muslim, she looks up to the heavens and she says to God, you know, I really want to pray with my soul, but right now I'm just not there. I don't know what to do. I want to do my duty, which is pray. But will you accept a prayer without a soul? If you don't accept a prayer without a soul, then give me my soul back so I can pray with my soul. If that's a little difficult to grasp, consider it this way. For those of us in this class who have companions and it's a long-term relationship, no doubt you must have felt that the sort of love you have for your companion is no longer the sort of feely love that you once had. You try to go on trips, you try to read poetry, you try to watch movies to bring the sizzle back, but it disappears very, very quickly. Once in a while you go out somewhere, you see someone, and within a matter of maybe minutes or hours or maybe days, all of a sudden you have this intense explosion inside you where this feeling is so intense, it's unforgettable. And that is what the story is. That sometimes for teachers, the only way a teacher can be a good bona fide teacher is to allow this wisdom, Sophia, to run through them wild, for the teacher to be a vehicle so that wisdom can express itself through them. Okay? So the first is being water, the second is being empty. The third is being formless. I actually don't know what any of this stuff means. Life makes all of us hard, callous. And it's the only way to survive life, really. And we learn this very early on in life. Our parents tell us not to cry, not to whine, not to scream, to grow up, toughen up. And that's how you survive life. And then you go to school and instructors give you a bunch of ridiculous information, and they're usually doctors. Then you have jobs, lots of yes and no's. And as you move through life, you realize some things break you, and so fear now lives inside you. And what little you possess, you realize other people covet them, and now jealousy and anger grows inside you. And all these are components that just form us. We have biases, prejudices, we have philosophies of life, we have beliefs. Hello. And whenever you find yourself in the presence of any good teacher, at first you realize they do something that is unfamiliar. You try to figure it out, you can't. You resist, conflict begins, doubt begins, fear begins. It's all because you've been shaped, formed by your own experiences, by society and culture and history. The task of the teacher is to break you. Imagine that you go to Costco and you buy yourself a planter box or a planter pot. It's clay. It was once wet, soft. Someone gave it a form, then they baked it, and then they painted it, and now you buy it for $50, you bring it home. That's how all of us are. Then you find yourself in the presence of a teacher, and the truth is very much like emptiness. He or she can't work with you, can't give you anything, because you're hardened. The task of a teacher is to form and shape your interior as well as your exterior, your physical life as well as your spiritual, emotional life. And as long as you go to a teacher completely formed, hardened, there isn't much you can do except to break you. And to break anything is painful. So for those of you who want to kind of walk this particular path of self-knowledge, you need to understand it comes with a great amount of pain. And since we are pleasure-seeking animals, we don't enjoy pain too much. There's a good chance that once pain is given to you, you will run the other direction. Oh, I'm tired. Do you have any questions? Excellent. There is this Persian poem, it's actually quite beautiful. Let me see if I can remember it. باید گرفتارم شوی تا که گرفتارت شوم از جان و دل یارم شوی تا عاشق زارت شوم من نیستم چون دیگران بازیچه بازیگران اول بدام آرم تو را وانگه خریدارت شوم. So the first line, باید گرفتارم شوی تا که گرفتارت شوم. That you must become contaminated with me. You must be occupied with me. Only then will I pay attention to you. از جان و دل یارم شوی. That you must be my physical, my emotional, my intellectual, and my spiritual companion. از جان و دل یارم شوی تا عاشق زارت شوم. When you become such a companion, then I will fall in love with the tears that flow down your cheeks. And those tears are the result of longing and yearning. Okay? من نیستم چون دیگران. That I am not like other things that have occupied your life. بازیچه بازیگران. They just play with you, exploit you, and then throw you aside. اول بدام آرم تو را. I will trap you with love and wisdom. وانگه خریدارت شوم. Then I will purchase you. I will own you. And when you own something, then you can shape them. Then you can form them. Then you can guide them. The next component is yin. So there are two forces, the dark and the light, the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine. If you're a novice in any craft, you need to learn the alphabets. Just because someone has taught you the alphabets and you know A all the way to Z, it doesn't mean that you can put them together and create words. You can create nonsense, they're just meaningless. And just because someone has given you words or you know how to put letters together to create words, it doesn't mean that you know how to make sentences or paragraphs or know what the hell it is you're writing about. Initially, all paths of life have their own unique set of alphabets. Learn them. After learning them, then you mimic what your teacher will give you. Don't desire to be authentic. Don't desire to be creative. You're a novice. You mimic. After mimicking, then you plagiarize. You go into society and you say, have you ever heard of the philosopher King? It's not your idea. You're not that creative. It's somebody else's idea. You've stolen it and claimed it as your own. You plagiarize. Then there comes a point where your teacher says, you have learned the alphabets, you mimic really well, you plagiarize really well. Now what I'm going to do, after 10 years of being around me and mimicking well, plagiarizing well, I'm going to turn off the lights. And I'm going to remove the music sheets. And you're going to sit behind the piano. And you're going to close your eyes. You're going to remain silent for a few minutes. And then you're going to improvise. In other words, you're going to bring together 15, 16, 20 years of mimicking, plagiarizing. You're going to bring them together and you're going to create your own music. It'll be a little bit of Snoop Dogg, a little bit of Chopin, okay? But it'll be yours. It'll be authentic. It may not be any good, but it comes from your own soul. But that soul is the creation of discipline, of knowing the alphabets. So remember, creativity is at the very last stage of proficiency. You can't be creative after like 2 minutes or 2 years. It doesn't work that way. Inspiration is not creativity. Inspiration is just inspiration. It happens upon you. All teachers are creative. Read the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Beautiful. And you don't have to be religious. Someone goes to him and says, "Oh, master, how do I poop?" And he goes on telling the audience like this fantastic story. Well, where did the story come from? That's who he is. He creates stories. How? The Holy Spirit. Where did that come from? Who the hell knows? So remember, if you're a novice, it's okay to mimic. It's okay to plagiarize. You have to. You're far too young and immature and not so proficient in being able to generate authenticity. It's okay being dishonest for a while. So if creativity is the end goal of the student, they have to wait. If you're working with a teacher and your teacher happens to be creative, you try to understand, figure out why, how, when, who, you won't get it. Okay? Just be okay with the fact that you're around someone who's creative. The last component, which is also only for the teacher, not for the student, and maybe to some extent for the student as well, is being childlike. And I'm not talking about a 2-year-old or a 5-year-old who just breaks things and says stupid things and does stupid things and screams and shouts and just wastes time. I'm not quite sure in which of the gospel the story is, but there is a point where Nicodemus, one of the people who has kind of fallen in love with Jesus, goes to him and says, "Are you telling me that I have to become a child, like I have to go back to my mother's womb and then come back again?" And he says, "No, that which is of flesh is flesh, and that which is of spirit is spirit. You have to be born again in spirit. You have to be childlike." Now, one of the things about, I suppose, creativity is that you can't hold creativity hostage. Creativity gives its own shape. It's not meant to be held by anyone or anything. Okay? It's something that Krishnamurti used to talk about when he was asked questions about love, about the spiritual path, about truth, that no one can cage any of this stuff. They're like birds. They have wings. They need to fly. And they need to go wherever they want to go. The moment you cage it, you clip its wings. It's no longer alive. Do you have any questions? This is Taoism. For those of you who are interested, there is a book that was written by supposedly its founder. I'm not sure if he actually existed. His name is Lao Tzu. The book is called Dao De Jing. And one of the best translations and commentaries was done by a German guy. His name is K.O. Schmidt. There are only 500 copies made. You can actually go on to Amazon, and if you can find the book, it's hardback. Buy the book, it's worth it. It may be $50. It's a really, really good book. Great translation. K.O. Schmidt. SCHMIDT. You know, Germans, they spell everything badly. Yeah.
Would you write that?
Huh?
Would you write that on the board?
Yeah. Can you give me a minute? Okay. It's about 84 chapters. It's really kind of like poetry. And you have to kind of figure out what the hell is talking about. You know, like if you can name truth, if you can speak the truth, it's not the truth. Well, if that's the case, what the hell do teachers do? If you can speak wisdom, it's not wisdom? So are you telling me all teachers are counterfeit? Yeah. Anything that tries to be beautiful turns out to be ugly. That's a warning. just in case you think yourself to be wise and you go before a group of people and you try to show off, that probably everyone will walk away from you. So try to be as quiet, as invisible as possible. So it's a good book, 84 chapters. Have a good time for those of you interested. Yeah, anyone else? Right now?
Yeah.
My hand's in my pocket. Anyone else? Yeah. Anyone else? Can we do Confucianism in 15 minutes? They can wait till Monday. Yeah.
Do you think that teachers or philosophers are full more with pain or love?
So the way it usually works is, I think, and I'm going to just use basic examples that all of us, at least most of us in this class, have experienced, which is you love ice cream. You know, you went to someone's house, they gave you some Haagen-Dazs for the first time in your life, and you looked at your mom and you said, "How come you've never given me Haagen-Dazs? What sort of mother are you?" Okay. So you get a taste of something that you've never experienced before. It mystifies you, it baffles you, it bewilders you, it pains you. You want more of it, but it just disappears. There is this great scene. Have you seen that movie, Indecent Proposal, any of you? Bunch of losers. Indecent Proposal is Demi Moore and Robert Redford. So, Demi Moore is married in this movie with Woody Harrelson. Is that how you say it? Harrelson? Yeah, Woody. And Robert Redford's, of course, you know, he's a good-looking man, even at his age, 125.
Yeah.
And so Demi Moore finds him attractive. They sleep together. You know, the yin part of Taoism, creativity. And anyways, he takes her home to his mansion. And it's a big house, but there's no one in it. And he says to her that this house needs someone like you. I'm in love with you. You're in love with me. Let's get married. And then he tells a story. He tells her a story, which is, when I was 12, I got in this bus. There was this girl. She kept looking at me. I kept looking at her. I so desperately wanted to go to her and say hello, but I was too shy, too reserved. And that's how the culture used to be, even here some years ago. And then eventually the bus came to a stop, and she ran out. And I ran to the back of the bus, and I waved goodbye, and she waved back. And then while the bus was driving, I said to myself, "God damn it, Robert, you should have said hello to her. You should have, got her cell number." And then he said, I went to that same bus station every single day for the next 5 months, but she never came. And this is a story of a young boy when he was 12. How old is he now? 60. How is it that you have remembered an experience that's about 40 years old? But it must have been a very traumatic experience in the sense that the experience now lives inside your soul. Now, what happens when the experience is not saturated, in other words, you have not been overexposed to the thing that you desire, is that it leaves you and it keeps you hanging. It generates inside you a sense of longing, a sense of yearning. And when you don't have what you want, what you need, you have no choice but to become sad. And sadness sometimes shows itself as shades of anger, depression. What you really want is Haagen-Dazs. But Safeway is closed. Your mom says no because she's like a vegan, you know. And so you lie and you cheat, you do all sorts of things to have a bite of Haagen-Dazs. And then someone tells you, you know Safeway has Haagen-Dazs. You say, well, when does it open? They're closed tomorrow, it's 4th of July. You mean I have to wait? Now you know where the ice cream is. You can actually see your desire come to life, but love and pain, they make you very impatient. So when your parents go to sleep, you go to the garage, you grab yourself a hammer, you climb out the window, you walk to Safeway, you break the window, you find the ice cream aisle. The alarm is on, you know. Like all Oakland police are driving towards Safeway. And there you are, just sitting in the ice cream aisle, having one Haagen-Dazs after another. And they say, you're under arrest, hands up. And both hands go up, and you have Haagen-Dazs in one and Haagen-Dazs in the other. And you keep licking one after the other. So the point I'm trying to make is, whether you're a kid and you're in love with Haagen-Dazs, or you're a 12-year-old kid and you love playing video games like Donkey Kong. Is that still around? Or you happen to be, I don't know, like my friend Reza, who was in love with bicycling. He would lie and steal money to buy bikes and shoes and all that. Or you happen to be like Plato in love with, you know, philosophy, with wisdom and Sophia. And the truth is, human beings can never possess wisdom and Sophia. They can have glances of them, they can have minor experiences of them, and then they will both fly away. Both wisdom and Sophia will fly away. And you're left with longing, you're left with yearning, you're left with pain and sorrow and depression, because nothing that this world can give you will ever come close to what Sophia can give you, what Philo can give you, wisdom and love. And so you have necessary components that live inside love. Experience, and then the experience disappears, and then you long for the experience to come back, but it doesn't come to you because you want it. It comes when it wants to. And then you have to wait. But we're not the sort of animals that enjoy, you know, waiting and being patient. We want things to come to us immediately. The id is profoundly powerful. So whenever you love anything, it doesn't matter what it is, you become impatient, you long, you yearn, you suffer. And it is in suffering that you gain some insight and maturity. Yeah. Anyone else? Allahu Akbar. Is it about the name on the board?
No.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So, what happens when trauma reaches the soul, or is it that trauma is when an experience reaches your soul?
I'm sorry, say again.
What happens when trauma reaches your soul, or is trauma an experience that reaches your soul?
I don't know that. I'll tell you a different. And it may have nothing to do with your question. Hussein had a Persian market. He had tea, bread, he had pots, pans, and then he would go home and have gatherings. His social status, he was a man who was selling stuff. None of us envied his social status. Okay? We weren't in love. I'm going to become wise so I can have a Persian mini mart. Okay. Let's say that, this is just an example, an analogy. Okay. You come to the class, and Hussein did not tell us to go to school, to become a philosopher, to study religious, ideas, and none of that stuff. So our only ambition, desire was to go there, listen, and go home. Depressed. Sometimes inspired. Let's say you come to this class. And you say, wow, so this is what it means to be in the classroom. Come to the class, you talk, you make money, you have all these ears. It's a great life. And then what you have is, you want to go to school, do philosophy, but there's also this hidden intention. You want the attention too. You want the social status too. You want the attention too. And now what you have is a great amount of contamination. Okay. What was your question? Anyways, anyone else?
I have another question.
Allahu Akbar, Baba. So you're like Costco.
So what do you mean?
24 hours and nothing runs out. Yeah, go ahead.
What do you mean when you say, because you use the word the soul a lot?
I do?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do you, because how would you define that?
I don't know what it is. It just, cultures give birth to certain words that can't be really described well. They just say, oh, well, there is something inside, it's called the kingdom of God. So you look into your shirt, no, I just see, it's like skin and meat and all that stuff. Well, it's kind of a bit more metaphorical. What the hell do you mean? And so it becomes a symbol. It's like a finger pointing to the moon. And you keep saying, well, what is the soul? I don't know what the soul is, man. It's a part of you that once in a while comes out and says you're a piece of shit. Anyone else? Yeah.
Do we change things by observation?
It depends how good your grinder is. In other words, if you buy like a blender from Target for $12.95, it's going to function very different than the Vitamix that you buy from Costco for $625. So if you want something to be blended in a very refined way, well, the $12.99 is not going to do it. So when you talk about observation, it depends where you are, what your background is, how sharp your teeth are, how well you can chew, how well you can process. The less refined, the more raw, the less proficient, your ability to observe things proficiently is going to kind of be missing some very, very serious components. You need to have a foundation. That foundation, for me, I can't speak for other people, that foundation for me was because of my relationship with this man. And you want to process things, but you can't. You're a novice. For the next 10 years, you want to figure things out, but you don't have any tools to figure any goddamn thing out. You're just a bundle of feelings, and the feelings are going everywhere. You can't hold anything together. No relationship is ever going to be stable, ever. Because you're trying to figure things out. You can't sleep. You can't have conversations because when you talk, everything is jumbled up. You don't even make sense to yourself, And so your ability to observe, once in a while, of course, you kind of look at something, you observe it, you have an experience, but again, because you're not good at what you're doing, it disappears very, very quickly. It's like a gift that's given to you for like 5 seconds and disappears. You should watch Roger Federer, the tennis player, watch John McEnroe, watch Magnus Carlsen, watch Tiger Woods. One of the things that all these people have in common is they have become so good at their craft that 99.9% of the time they are at top of their game. Once in a while they have a lousy day. And that's how it is. You want your observations to be very, very crystal clear? Well, it's going to take some time. It's an art. One of the best people I think you can kind of listen to these days is the Canadian psychologist Jordan Peterson. I mean, he's become a little, or maybe a lot, contaminated because now he talks to politicians. He's gone a little But for the most part, because of his academic background, because of his own private practice background, because he's also an introvert. And introverts are amazing human beings, especially when they become as proficient as someone like Jordan Peterson. They're able to put emotions into language, they're able to express language and emotions in a very articulate way. It's really like sitting back and watching your soul coming to life when this man talks. Okay? Do not listen to Eckhart Tolle. I mean, first, he's not very attractive physically. The second, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. But anyways, I'm sure you have your own people that you like listening to. Anyone else? We have like a minute, so we have time for a quickie. Yeah.
What's the meaning of life? In a quickie summary.
I don't know. Yeah. I think initially you go on this quest to figure out the meaning to life. And then there comes a point where you're just going to just live your life. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that anyone that reaches old age ends up embodying a self that's like a good pursuit for someone else that's young?
I'm sorry, say again?
Do you think anyone that reaches old age ends up embodying like an idea of a self that's that would be good for someone that's younger to pursue?
You know, it's a difficult question. One would hope that as you age and as you begin to observe that your body is diminishing, you're becoming much more fragile, that you're losing certain abilities, that all of a sudden regret comes about. And no doubt you'll be sad and depressed for a little bit. And when you begin to lose abilities, I mean, a loss is a loss. It doesn't matter what age you are. When a loss like hits you, and it's very intense on a very emotional level, you're going to have a good amount of regret. You're going to be sad. It's going to pain you. And if you're lucky, if resentment has left you, is envy has left you, is anger has left you, if you've kind of come to this place of acceptance, and it's a very, very difficult place to be, especially for us modern people, because most of the myths that used to protect us against some of the just the natural things that happen to human beings, those myths are gone, those narratives are gone, so we're abandoned, we have to figure things out on our own. If you're lucky enough to have these myths within you and be able to kind of express the regrets, the loss, in an eloquent way, then yeah, you can embody some wonderful things that you can give to young people, if of course they are receptive, if they're empty enough to receive. But, you know, ultimately it's kind of like what Anna Christina had asked last night about parents. The truth is, some of you are bored in this class. I don't blame you. Some of you perhaps don't like the way I speak or some of the ways I express ideas. And it doesn't matter what I say, but should you choose to walk into a classroom or let's just say even a party, try holding people's attention for about 3 hours. Try presenting an idea, an experience that you've had in an eloquent way. Be articulate for 5 minutes. And then you will see how difficult it is. And the point I'm trying to make, it's only experience, your own relationship to an experience that will teach you lessons. This, it means nothing. It's only in wrestling. You know, right now, you're thinking, and maybe you're inspired, you're excited. The question is, when you go home 4 hours from now, will you be thinking about this stuff? That reveals the intensity of the relationship, how valuable it is for you. Are you going to contact any of these people and ask them for coffee to go out? Are you going to email or text me? And that's how things are. You know. And without this wrestling component, you will never, ever, ever kind of understand things in depthly. Anything else before we go home? Well, it's good to see all of you. Have a nice weekend. Walk to your car or bar with someone. Don't go home alone. I mean, go home alone, but maybe not alone. But be safe, stay in touch, and I will see you next week, Monday.
Thank you.
We have 2 more weeks, right? Next week and the following? Okay, good.